After being in a relationship for 5 years, Ava finally agreed to get engaged. I felt like a scavenger who had found a treasure. I wholeheartedly prepared for the engagement dinner. Unexpectedly, she turned around and threw herself into William's arms instead. She even planned to frame me and send me to prison. I countered by canceling the engagement and calling the police. Ava got angry, and William panicked. I said coldly, "Don't worry. We'll have a lot of lawsuits to fight in the future." I had been preparing for Ava's proposal ceremony for a full 3 months. I booked a European-style manor in the suburbs, decorated the venue, and almost emptied my savings. Even the champagne-colored petals she liked the most were airlifted from overseas. When Ava stepped onto the rose-covered carpet, I thought she would be moved to tears. However, she just stood there, her brows slightly furrowed, and a hint of dissatisfaction in her eyes. "You said you tried your best to prepare a surprise for me, and this is it?" I was clutching the ring hidden in my pocket, and the sweat in my palm had soaked through the velvet box. I took a cautious breath and tentatively asked Ava, "Where do you think it's not good? I'll change it right now." She didn't answer, just let out a soft sigh, seemingly a bit impatient. Just when I didn't know how to speak, William appeared at the entrance of the manor. He walked over with a smile, casually looking around at the decorations. "James, you've really put in a lot of effort. But don't you know that Ava prefers a simple style?" I could barely keep the smile on my face. My lips quivered, but I couldn't say a word. Ava glanced at me, her lips slightly downturned. There was a hint of annoyance in her tone. If he knew what style I like, could he have made it like this? "James, are you trying to disgust me or you simply don't want to get engaged?" I quickly waved my hands, but my voice got stuck in my throat, and I didn't know how to defend myself. When we were discussing the engagement ceremony, she clearly said she wanted a European-style ceremony. She even specifically told me to hold the ceremony according to the French process. I had no idea how much time and money I had spent on it, but now she said she didn't like it. Ava was always like this. No matter what she wanted to do, one second she was obsessed with it, as if she wouldn't give up until she achieved her goal, and the next second, her attitude could do a 180-degree turn. I thought that all little girls had such tempers and it was normal. So, no matter how capricious Ava was and how she shifted the blame onto me, I didn't argue with her, thinking that she would mature in a few years and her temper would naturally change. Unexpectedly, now she could go back on her word even about such a big thing as our engagement ceremony. She directly negated the painstaking efforts I had put in for 3 months according to her whim. I suddenly felt a sense of powerlessness spreading all over my body. William immediately chimed in. "Actually, James is also nice. It's just that sometimes we men are too careless." I turned my head and stared at him coldly. William seemed to be making excuses for me, but in fact, he was implying that I didn't put my heart into it. I had tried my best, but was denied by a single word from an outsider, which made a faint anger rise in my heart. Ava nodded slightly, seemingly agreeing with his statement. Her indifference made me feel a bone-chilling cold. I didn't care what others said. But Ava actually thought that all my efforts were in vain. She didn't look at me and turned to walk towards the door. "Forget it. Let it be this time." I stood there, watching her leaving figure, not knowing whether to be angry or sad. William stopped beside me and said softly, "James, don't take it too seriously. Women always have a little temper." I looked at him coldly. His smiling eyes were full of pride. William chuckled softly and quickly caught up with Ava. I released the ring in my hand, and my fingertips were as cold as iron. The bright lights were still flickering, illuminating the magnificent manor. Only Ava, who should have been standing in the center of the stage, left resolutely. I took out the ring and threw it on the ground fiercely. I didn't sleep all night. I couldn't fall asleep because of all the grievances and unwillingness in my heart. I stood in the empty manor, smoking one cigarette after another. It was not until the dawn broke on the horizon that I came to my senses. It was dawn. I walked to the company, took a slow breath, and tried to calm my pent-up feelings. As soon as I sat down, the secretary told me that William had come to look for me, but didn't say what it was about. I said coldly, "Don't care about him." This person has nothing to do with me. Before I could finish speaking, Ava pushed the door open with a gloomy face. She looked at me coldly, her eyes full of anger. James, are you taking revenge by using your power and deliberately suppressing William? He just told the truth, and you're so petty that you immediately go after him? I was stunned, completely not knowing what Ava was talking about. I tried my best to keep my tone calm and asked her what was going on. Ava got even more annoyed. Stop pretending to be confused in front of me. Just now William told me that his well-going project was suddenly terminated. The project he was following up on was just taken over by your subsidiary. You're ruining his livelihood. I quickly recalled the recent business activities in my mind. There didn't seem to be any intersection with William. I couldn't even remember what the relationship was between the business of the subsidiary and the project in his hands. So I said with some confusion, I haven't targeted William. Even if the company snatched his business, it's just normal competition. Ava suddenly raised her hand and slapped me hard. I was completely stunned. But she shouted at me with anger in her eyes, you're still lying to me. If it was normal competition, why did you hide and not see him when William came to you just now? James, I must have been blind to fall for someone like you, who even cheats on his own friends. I felt a dull pain in my chest and looked at Ava in disbelief. In the 5-year relationship, I had never told a lie in front of her, and every word I said was sincere. I thought that at least there should be mutual trust between lovers, which was the cornerstone of the relationship. However, when William smeared me, she believed him without even asking. I gritted my teeth and said coldly, whether William is my friend or not, let's not talk about it. But ask yourself, whose fiancé are you? Ava was speechless and turned her head to remain silent. I took a deep breath. I didn't do such a thing. If you don't believe me, you can check it yourself. She turned around and looked at me, her gaze filled with scrutiny. Check? Of course you can distance yourself from it and push everything onto the company. Playing tricks on your own people, James, don't you feel even a bit of guilt? My patience was almost exhausted. Guilt? What should I feel guilty about? I've been trying my best to give you the best life, but now you're questioning me for the sake of an outsider. Her eyes instantly turned cold, as if I had stepped on her tail. I had never seen such a fierce and ferocious expression on her face. William is not an outsider, I asked her with a bitter smile, then what about me? She didn't answer, gave me an angry glare, and then turned and left. I slumped back into my office chair feebly. The anger and sadness in my heart made me feel mixed emotions. We had been in a relationship for 5 years and were about to get married. Ava actually abandoned even the most basic trust for the sake of William. I couldn't help but clench my fists, and the veins on the back of my hands bulged. Forget it, just let it go. Such a relationship is not worth having. I was busy at the company until late at night, putting all my thoughts aside. It was nearly dawn when I left the company. When I got home, Ava was sitting on the sofa, holding a glass of champagne, with a cold look in her eyes. I was about to ask her why she wasn't asleep. But the sudden surge of anger made me hold my tongue. Ava looked up at me and said in a calm tone, I know what you did to William. As long as you stop, I'll forgive you. I sighed, feeling only a deep sense of exhaustion. Since she didn't want to believe me, there was no point in me saying anything. Seeing that I didn't speak, Ava slammed the goblet heavily on the table. Are you mute? Or are you deaf? I'm talking to you. I took off my coat, put it aside, and turned to walk into the bathroom. The cool water splashed on my face, making me feel much better. Ava walked to the door, looked at me in the mirror, and took a deep breath. Her voice became softer. I know you're jealous because William is nice to me. Shouldn't you be even nicer to me? Besides, William and I have a pure friendship. Is it necessary for you to be so extreme? Are you jealous that someone is nice to me or you don't want me to live a good life? I sighed and asked her what exactly had happened to William. Ava said that William had recently lost several important clients in a row, and even some companies had launched vicious competition against him. And all of this seemed to be related to me. If I hadn't assigned the subsidiary to snatch his projects, he couldn't have failed one after another. My brows furrowed involuntarily, and I tried hard to suppress the anger in my heart. If he can produce evidence, I'm willing to admit it. But you believe the lies he made up casually? For a moment, there was a hint of hesitation in her expression, but soon it returned to a determined look. When talking about William, her tone was almost full of conviction. William is never the kind of person who would lie. He's straightforward and definitely wouldn't lie to me. I was so angry that I laughed. Then have I ever lied to you? She opened her mouth, her lips quivering, and said in a low voice, William has no reason to frame you. This sentence was like a cold blade, stabbing straight into my heart. He has no reason to frame me? Ha, isn't taking my place the biggest reason? I sneered. William wants to take my place and become your fiancé. Is that reason enough? Ava's face darkened. She immediately rebuked me. James, don't think of others so despicably. She couldn't continue. After a few seconds of silence, she turned around angrily and left. I looked at myself in the mirror and sighed deeply. In the following days, Ava's attitude towards me became even colder. She always avoided me, and I no longer cared. On the weekend, I came back from looking at houses with my friends. As soon as I entered the door, I found her holding a mobile phone, with a look of panic on her face. I didn't say anything, changed my shoes, and went to the study. Ava suddenly called out to me. William is not feeling well. Take me there to have a look. I ignored her. Ava showed obvious dissatisfaction. James, are you done? We don't know what's wrong with William now, and you're still throwing a tantrum here. If something really happens to him, can you take the responsibility? Take responsibility for William? I coldly said to her. I'm not his husband. What responsibility should I take? She suddenly shouted. James, you're so cold-blooded. Ava got up, quickly put on her clothes, and rushed out of the door. In the entire living room, only my breathing seemed to remain. I slowly sat down on the sofa. Until the neon lights outside the window gradually went out. She still didn't come back. As soon as I entered the company gate, I noticed some strange looks. They quickly lowered their heads, deliberately avoiding my gaze. Several colleagues were huddled together, whispering. When they saw me approaching, they immediately dispersed and left one by one. I pushed open the door of my office and had just sat down when the assistant rushed in. James, look at this. I casually opened the file, and several glaring lines immediately came into view. Abnormal capital flow, project contract forgery. My brows knitted tightly, and I asked in a cold voice, where did this come from? The assistant answered hesitantly. It was submitted by the finance department. They found that these capital accounts are related to your personal account. In an instant, my anger was ignited. I asked who the source of these documents was. The assistant looked flustered. It's William. Hearing this name, the anger in my heart surged. Suppressing my anger, I immediately dialed Ava's phone. Where are you? Her voice was cold and distant. I'm out talking to William. What's wrong? I almost gritted my teeth and said with a sneer. That's just right. He framed me for embezzling company assets and forging contracts. Tell him to have the guts to come and confront me face to face right now. She was uncharacteristically silent for a while. Then, in a calm tone with an unwavering refusal, she said, why should William go to see you? Is your time the only precious one? Besides, he has already explained to me that the documents have been verified by multiple parties and are genuine. You've been suppressing William everywhere. Are you not even allowing him to speak? I was so angry that my vision went dark. I clenched my fists so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The anger in my heart could no longer be suppressed. What William explained to you is useless. Who the hell do you think you are? I've supported you for 5 years, and now you bite me for the sake of an outsider? Ava, you want to be with William, right? Then you can wait to go to jail with him. On the other end of the phone, there was complete silence. I hung up without waiting for Ava to reply. My hand holding the phone was slightly trembling. I've worked so hard, only to raise an ungrateful wretch. I waved my hand to tell the assistant to organize the materials and report the situation within the company. Then, I took out my phone, hesitated for a few seconds, and called the police. Unexpectedly, Ava actually came. She stormed into the office, her face ferocious. And William stood behind her, smiling, with a look of triumph in his eyes. My cold gaze swept over him, but William didn't avoid it at all. He even nodded slightly, as if provoking me. Ava shouted at me hysterically, "James! How dare you scold me? What right do you have to scold me? Kneel down now and apologize to William, or don't expect me to forgive you." Her shouts attracted colleagues to come and watch. Without saying a word, I swung my hand and slapped Ava hard. With a slap, she was almost knocked off her feet by me. William quickly held her up so she wouldn't fall. Ava seemed to be stunned by the slap. She looked at me tremblingly, not even daring to make a sound with blood streaming from the corner of her mouth. William immediately glared. "James, you actually dared to hit Ava? With this kind of behavior, you still want to get engaged? Not to mention Ava, I won't agree either. Ava, don't be afraid. I'm calling the police right now. We must make this scumbag pay the price." As soon as William took out his phone, several police officers came over. He was stunned for a moment and got up in confusion. Ava immediately started crying loudly. However, the police officers ignored her. After learning that I was the one who reported the case, they asked me a few simple questions and then asked William to go back to assist in the investigation. Ava immediately stopped crying and then pointed at me, shouting at the police officers. "Why are you taking William away? Shouldn't you take him?" I was so angry that I laughed. Even at this moment, she was still trying to protect William. Instead, she wanted to send her own fiancé to jail. What a wonderful woman. William also panicked when he saw this and stammered, "I reported James. At most, it's an economic dispute. Why should I be taken away?" I sneered. "Because this is the job of the Economic Investigation Department. You reported me for suspected duty-related embezzlement and fraud. What? Didn't you even do this little bit of preparation before reporting and were in such a hurry to bring me down?" "William, don't worry. We'll have a lot of lawsuits to fight in the future." William was obviously stunned. He quickly turned to look at Ava. However, Ava was also at a loss. The police officers still took William away. Ava didn't know whether to leave or stay. She turned to me and shouted, "James, go and tell them it's not William's fault. Ask them to release him immediately. Otherwise I will never marry someone like you in my life." I took a deep breath. 5 years of hard work had finally been in vain. So I said to Ava indifferently, "I will cancel the engagement. It's over between us." Ava looked at me in disbelief. "What? Cancel the engagement? How dare you say cancel it just like that? James, what do you take me for?" I said coldly, "I should be the one asking you that. What do you take me for? You desperately defend William, but speak ill of me. Now you let him slander me for a crime? For a full 5 years, Ava, ask yourself, what do you take me for?" Ava was about to make more noise, but I asked the security guards to drive her out directly. I was angry the whole day. I went home. The new house was empty. I stood on the balcony for a long time. The tea in my hand had already gone cold. The night wind was very cold, as if it was going to freeze my heart. The engagement ring was placed on the table. At this moment, it was no longer needed. Suddenly, the screen of my phone lit up. It was a short message. "James, look at what you've done. William still hasn't come out yet." I closed the conversation interface, deleted it, and blocked the number. This was Ava. Her coldness, her estrangement, every word she said was accusing me. It seemed that all the mistakes were caused by me. I had tried to save the relationship more than once, hoping to make her change her mind. But all I got in return was cold treatment again and again. I vaguely remembered when I first met her. Her eyes were full of unconcealable brightness. But now, when those eyes looked at me, there was only suspicion and indifference left. Just then, the doorbell rang suddenly. I walked over to open the door. Olivia was standing outside. She was holding a bottle of wine in her hand, and her eyes were full of concern. As I expected, you're at home. Here, to congratulate you on your new home. I didn't say anything, just stepped aside to let her in. She sat on the sofa, opened the bottle, and filled 2 glasses. She handed me a glass and looked straight at me. I heard about what happened. It's not a big deal. Who hasn't experienced betrayal? I smiled. It seems like you've experienced a lot. The person who's been single since birth is acting as a love advisor. Olivia pouted and said irritably, even if I haven't eaten pork, haven't I seen a pig run? But speaking of which, what exactly happened to that Ava? Weren't you about to get engaged? I looked down at the whiskey in the glass. My heart was filled with mixed emotions. It was impossible to say that I had no feelings after 5 years. I slowly opened my mouth, my voice hoarse. She doesn't trust me. No matter how much I explain, she always stands by William's side. It's really ridiculous. My own fiancé is dealing with me for the sake of another man. What a failed life. Olivia sighed softly. Girls are easily deceived by sweet words, but that doesn't mean you should blame yourself. After a long time, I looked up. Are you graduating this year? Olivia slapped me irritably. Next year. You really? I'm interning this year. I couldn't help but laugh. I had been so focused on Ava that I had forgotten my childhood friend. Now, seeing that she had grown into a graceful young woman, I couldn't even remember when she was going to graduate. As I drank the wine, I couldn't help but sigh at how time flies. Now that so many years have passed, she has grown up and I've gotten older. I really miss the days when I took her to climb trees and catch cicadas. The summers back then were so hot, yet we were so carefree. Olivia couldn't stop laughing. Look at you, starting to reminisce about your childhood. If you want to relax, how about I accompany you back to our hometown for a few days? Anyway, I don't have much to do during my internship. I was taken aback for a moment and suddenly thought that this season was the time when fruits were ripe. Yes, it had been so long since I had taken a proper vacation. Even when traveling with Ava, I was busy checking routes and carrying luggage. Whether going or coming back, I was either busy taking care of her or driving for over 10 hours. I had never walked my own path in a relaxed way. So I smiled and asked Olivia when she was free to go back to our hometown with me. She immediately jumped for joy. Right now. What are we waiting for? As I was packing, my phone suddenly rang. A strange number was flashing on the screen. I stared at it for a few seconds and finally didn't answer. The phone rang persistently, like a hammer repeatedly pounding at my rationality. I knew who it was. Finally, it stopped abruptly after ringing for the 5th time. After a moment of silence, the doorbell rang. I frowned and walked over and saw the person standing outside through the peephole. Sure enough, it was Ava. She looked exhausted, her fingers stiffly pressing the doorbell, and her eyes were filled with anxiety. When I opened the door, she looked up, and the moment she saw me, an uncontrollable emotion welled up in her eyes. James, why did you move away and avoid me? Her voice was a bit shaky. I didn't know if she was just too angry. I looked at her coldly. I'm not avoiding you. It's over between us. I already told you that the other day. She clearly didn't expect my coldness. Her expression froze, and then her eyes turned red. In the past, when we quarreled, you always tried to make me happy. Why are you leaving just like that now? James, you've really changed. I just wanted you not to be prejudiced against William, and you canceled the engagement. What about our relationship over the past few years? I didn't respond and turned to walk back into the room. She followed me in, her lips quivering. I know I went a bit too far this time, but you're my boyfriend. Shouldn't you be more tolerant of me? I sat on the sofa in silence, as if her presence was like air. Ava shouted. Say something. I smiled. What do you want me to say? That the charges William pinned on me are all true? Or should I wish you two a long life together and an early birth of a precious child? Ava was speechless. She hesitated for a few seconds and said, William did, but he just couldn't get over the anger because you were always suppressing him. He didn't mean to slander you on purpose. I sneered. 2 reports, 2 letters of accusation, 6 departments, plus the board of directors. It's impossible to put all that together in just a few days, and you actually say he didn't do it on purpose. If he could do that so easily, he would have been worth trillions by now. Her expression froze and tears almost welled up in her eyes. I know William was wrong this time, but I didn't mean to deceive you on purpose. If I didn't really love you, would I have agreed to get engaged to you? I suddenly laughed, with a self-mocking tone in my smile. Love me? How do you love me? With suspicion and accusations? By always standing on the other person's side to love me. She flinched at my words, but still refused to back down. I was just anxious at that time. I didn't want to be like that. Enough. I interrupted her, with anger in my tone for the first time. Ava, do you know what your biggest mistake is? She stared at me blankly, as if waiting for an answer. I stood up and looked straight into her eyes. From the very beginning, your heart wasn't on my side. If you had me in your heart for even a second, you wouldn't have taken sides against me. Tears finally rolled down her cheeks, and she murmured. That's not the case. I told her to shut up immediately. I didn't want to hear any more meaningless words. Leave. I'll ask the moving company to take the things at home. From now on, you'll have to find a way to pay the rent on your own. Ava seemed to have had her last bit of hope shattered. Her trembling hands hung helplessly by her sides. After a long time, she lowered her head and said softly. Then, William, I shouted angrily. Get out. I went back to my hometown with Olivia. Completely leaving Ava behind, I started to get back to normal. Or rather, I became more clear-headed. This allowed me to think and look for things that I had lost. Olivia cheered happily beside me. She was a girl who was always full of joy. She was smiling every second she was by my side. This couldn't help but remind me of a line. She's gentle, she's quiet, she doesn't shout at me. She doesn't call me a fool, she doesn't tell me to shut up at every turn. She listens to me, she's nice to me. She doesn't make me feel that the only thing that makes her unhappy is me. That kind of ease felt strange to me. Even it made me a little scared. My old family house had been unoccupied and was almost in ruins. We could only make do at Olivia's grandmother's house. We cooked with a wood-burning stove, got our faces covered in ashes, and giggled as we buried sweet potatoes in the ashes. The grandmother muttered. You're so grown up, but still acting like kids. What will you do when you have children in the future? I was about to speak when Olivia bumped my arm. She whispered that the grandmother had been rather muddled these 2 years, and we should just go along with what she said and not explain. Otherwise, the grandmother wouldn't be able to understand and might get confused. I quickly nodded. After a few days of relaxation, I felt like a new person. Just like a butterfly that had shed its chrysalis, I was no longer bound. Back in the city, Olivia pouted, not wanting to go to her internship. I laughed at her, saying that she was already thinking about slacking off even before starting work. Olivia gave me a sidelong glance. Well, why don't you support me? I burst out laughing and ruffled her hair hard. Okay, come to work with me. Not only will I give you an internship certificate, but you can also sleep until you wake up naturally. Olivia's eyes immediately lit up, and she cheered loudly. I shook my head with a smile and drove back to the company. She was playful but not lazy. After going through the procedures, she learned word by word from the company's seniors. For things she didn't feel comfortable asking in person, she would ask me what to do after work. Gradually, I found that Olivia understood me better than anyone else. As soon as I frowned, she would drag me around to run wild, making me forget all the pressure. Wherever we went, her voice was so gentle, and there was always a glimmer of joy in her eyes. When a new project came down, it was already very late when we got off work. Isn't Olivia back? The car was quiet. Olivia was looking out of the window sideways, as if thinking about something. I didn't break the silence, nor did I want to. Just when I thought she was tired, she suddenly spoke. James, do you still love Ava? Her voice wasn't as relaxed as usual, with a hint of nervousness. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel, focusing my eyes on the road ahead. In my heart, I remembered everything I was trying to forget. I smiled. It's been over for a long time. Olivia glanced at me, her eyes with an indescribable look. Then she immediately pretended to be relaxed and said, "Hey, don't you think it's a pity? 5 years, really just let it go like this?" I fell silent and took a deep breath. Indeed, 5 years of relationship and 5 years of devotion. It was impossible to say that I had no feelings at all. However, for the wrong person, there was no point in saying anything. I didn't want to talk about Ava anymore, nor did I want to recall those past events that were no longer worth looking back on. The streetlights outside the car window flashed by like meteors, and Olivia didn't say anything more. However, Ava didn't seem to be planning to let go easily. A few days later, she started coming to the company to look for me frequently. Every time I saw her, I could feel the unwillingness in her eyes. She sent me text messages, called me, and even refused to leave the company. Whenever that happened, I would dodge without hesitation. I wouldn't give her any chance. No matter how reluctant she seemed, it no longer meant anything to me. It was the weekend again. I was working overtime, and Olivia was bringing me water and making tea beside me. Suddenly, Ava's figure appeared at the door. She stood outside the door, looking at me. "James, I want to talk to you." I slightly frowned and turned around without responding. Olivia looked at me, and then said, "You two talk. I'm going to buy something." With that, she dodged Ava and quickly walked out of the door. Ava looked at her back, a flash of disgust in her eyes. "You?" Ava wanted to speak, but Olivia had already run far away. I turned back and looked straight at her. "What else is there to talk about between us? Over and over again, it's nothing but your grievances and your so-called helplessness." "Ava, I'm very busy. I don't have time to listen to your meaningless nonsense. You can leave." Her expression froze, as if she didn't expect me to be so direct. She tightly grasped the doorframe, her eyes full of pain. "James, do you really not care about me anymore?" "I don't," I answered without hesitation. "You've already chosen the person you think is worthy, and that person isn't me." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't say anything more. She just turned around and slowly left. After that day, Ava didn't come to look for me again. I thought a new life could finally begin. However, accidents always pop up at the most appropriate time. William's plan was far more complicated than I had imagined. I thought he just wanted to take my place or just take Ava away from me. It turned out that I underestimated him. He had planned a much bigger scheme behind the scenes. When William was collecting information, he got to know several Ponzi schemes. Through Ava, he also gave the companies information to them. The whole plan was like a precise chess game from the beginning. Whether there was this fool William or not, it didn't prevent those Ponzi schemes from targeting the company. After all, they weren't trying to help William snatch a woman. They only cared about money. When I received a call from my father, his tone was beyond any doubt. He directly told me to go back. When I entered the house, my father was already sitting in the study, his face ashen. There were several unfamiliar faces standing beside him, and the atmosphere was extremely serious. My father looked at me and said coldly, "I sent you out to get some experience for a few years, and this is what you've accomplished?" I didn't answer, just looked down at the documents on the table. The documents showed William's actions and how he had gradually led me in the wrong direction step by step. Every page made my heart ache. There was Ava's name on it. I had thought that I was only a failure in love, but I didn't expect that the foundation of my career was also crumbling in her hands. My father was silent for a while, then he let out a soft sigh. "You're too weak," which allowed others to take advantage of the loopholes. "But it's also my fault. When you were a kid, so many girls liked you, and I was very strict with you. As a result, you're easily trapped when you meet a beautiful woman." I stayed in the study for a long time. It was not until my father arranged for lawyers to start investigating the transactions of the Ponzi schemes that I rushed back overnight. However, when I got home, I found Ava leaning against the door. Her figure made me unable to react for a moment. The woman in front of me was no longer the flamboyant and bright one she used to be. Her hair was dull, and there was an air of despair around her. "James, please, help me, help William." He was also being instigated. "But those people don't even want to pay the bail now. Can you let him go? For the sake of our relationship over the past few years, please let him go." Her voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible. I didn't answer her. Ava lowered her head, hesitated for a long time, and finally spoke. "James, I was wrong. I never thought that William would do such a thing. I really didn't know." She looked at me, her eyes full of deep pain. "I really didn't expect that he would treat you like this. She paused, as if she wanted to say something but didn't have the courage to continue. I coldly interrupted her. "Stop talking. It's too late to say anything now." Her tears finally burst out. "James, I was really deceived by him. These days after you left, I finally realized how deeply I was wrong. Please, don't leave me again, okay? She choked up and couldn't continue, lowering her head to cry. I looked at her. There was no pity in my heart, only utter coldness. She really realized her mistake, but what was the point? Love that comes too late is as cheap as grass. Between us, we could never go back to the way it was. I said in a deep, indifferent voice. "Leave. Don't come to me again in the future. I don't want to see you either." She was stunned, as if she couldn't believe my words, and stood there motionless. I looked at her, feeling an inexplicable sense of loss. Ava's eyes were filled with tears. "James, I really know I was wrong. Give me a chance, okay? I'll show you how much I love you." "Love me?" She actually said she loved me? I felt a wave of nausea and didn't even want to hear a single word from her. Did she really think she could make up for something? Did she have the right to make up for it? Ava seemed to sense my disgust. She paused for a moment and then continued. "I really didn't expect that William would slander you. Only now do I understand everything he did." The tone of her speech became more and more urgent, as if she was desperately trying to defend herself. I sneered, a surge of anger in my heart. "You understand only now? What exactly do you understand? Yes, you finally know what William is really like, but do you know what's more important? You betrayed me." A flash of pain crossed her eyes, and her hands trembled slightly. "How can you say that? I've never betrayed you, really not." She paused for a few seconds, as if thinking about what to say next. "I was just bewitched by William, but I can swear, nothing happened between us." I still maintained a cold stance, looking at her. Her tears no longer moved me, they only made me more disgusted. She was once the person I trusted the most, the woman I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. But now, she had destroyed all of this with her own hands. She stood in front of me, still defending herself. From beginning to end, she didn't mention the harm her actions had caused me. Betrayal. It was the most vicious knife. Ava left. Her figure gradually faded away, becoming more and more blurred, and finally disappearing at the end of my sight. There was no resentment or anger in my heart, only an endless emptiness, as if all my strength had been drained away. Just then, I faintly heard a scream. I was stunned for a few seconds. The scream came from downstairs and became clearer and clearer. My heart skipped a beat. I immediately rushed to the stairwell and looked down. The white dress was like a blooming lily. It was Ava. I was dumbfounded. Even if Ava was wrong, no matter how outrageous her mistakes were, I never had the thought of hurting her. However, 1 second she was still pleading with me, and the next second she jumped off the building. Just a few seconds after leaving me. Now we were separated by life and death. I rushed downstairs like crazy. There were already many people standing around, whispering. With trembling hands, I took out my phone and dialed 120. At this moment, a scream came from behind. Olivia came back and happened to see this scene. She quickly came over and hugged my arm. What is this, you?" I didn't have time to answer. After dialing 120, I wanted to check on Ava's condition. Olivia immediately grabbed me and silently shook her head. Slowly, I lowered my phone. I don't know how long it passed. The police officers and doctors carried Ava away. The small stretcher was covered with a white cloth. The police officer with messy hair shook his head at me. One person jumped this morning, and now another one. These two really. My heart skipped a beat. I asked what he meant. The police officer hesitated for a moment and said, "Your ex-girlfriend, her current boyfriend jumped from UNFU number 3 this morning. I was in charge of that case too. I didn't expect to deal with the man's body and then hers right after. Forget it, I won't tell you anymore. Come and sign when you have time." I nodded blankly. Olivia looked at me and led me home. "Are you okay?" Olivia's voice broke my thoughts. I turned to look at her. There was only concern on her face. I didn't answer, just shook my head slightly, and my eyes moved to the window. She didn't ask me anything about Ava. Apparently, she already understood what Ava came for. I took a deep breath and said hoarsely, "I never thought." Olivia immediately interrupted me. "This is not your fault. You don't have to take all the blame on yourself. I came to you because I heard that William jumped off a building this morning. I was afraid you'd get into trouble. I didn't expect Ava to. So, don't worry about it. Don't think about it. We all have our own fates. This is not your fault." I turned to look at her. Unable to resist, I gently held her in my arms. Olivia reached out and stroked my back. It's okay. I'm here."